Hello there, and welcome back to my channel. So today, I'm going to be going over one of my favorite movies, Curse of Chucky. Now, this was a rebranding of the franchise after it had failed to make as much money and capture attentions that it was supposed to with Seed of Chucky. That was not everybody's favorite, so this is kind of like a tonal rebranding, going back to the scary elements, and it's kind of like a semi-reboot for the series, and it is once again directed by Don Mancini, and I really love the vibe of this one, the theme, the setting, how dark it is and how cruel it is. It's one of the bloodier, more gory ones, and I really love that aspect. It made Chucky scary again. It made the characters so interesting, and it keeps your attention, and I can't believe that it was a direct-to-video sequel. It came out somewhere around 8 or 10 or 11 years after the last installment, and with all of that being said, I think we should get right into Curse of Chucky. Okay, so right off the bat, these opening titles are my favorites. I love the way that the actual title looks. Curse of Chucky is so crisp and clean, and I love the spinning aspect, the camera angles of the opening credits after that first kill, which was brutal, by the way. And I just really love how it sets the tone, and I love the theme, the score, the sound of this movie is so perfect. Chucky gets his own theme in this one, and it really, really makes it everything. This movie to me is brilliant. I love the return of Brad Dourif as Chucky. I never thought that there would be another Chucky movie. Whenever there were so many years that went by without it, I figured that was it. And he was such an icon of my childhood. I remember being a preteen or like a teenager whenever this was coming out and seeing it in the stores and being really haunted by the cover of the movie. And I really wanted to watch it, and I told myself no so many times. But then I ended up, wanting to go get it, and it wasn't there, it was sold out. So I ended up just like buying it on iTunes. And I remember the first time I ever watched this movie, watching it on an iPad and just thinking, I was like, wow, this is like a slow burn. It was different than what I expected. And it really picked up, and I really thought it was good. And I don't know why it didn't stick with me at the time. Maybe there was so much other things going on, I really liked it. But I was caught up in like my friend group and hanging out and going out a bunch, and it just kind of, it blew past so fast. So whenever I got that box set franchise and rewatched the series, I discovered how amazing it is. This movie is so perfect. I love the camera angles. I love the quality of it, how the movements of the camera are, the way that they do the crane shots, the way that they pan through everything. I just loved how good this movie looked. I think it's an amazing concept bringing Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona Dourif, in as the new main character, Nica, to the franchise. She is everything. Her acting is perfect. She is such a great talent to be able to pull off everything that she does in this film, and I was so proud of her. I didn't even know that it was Chucky's daughter, whenever I first watched the film, and I just really appreciate that it's a family aspect now, because this character is so good and so intriguing. I really love being able to, figure out what her story was, and I love that she's handicapped, I love the inclusion of that. There's just so many aspects of her character that only Fiona could do so well, and so I'm really, really glad that they went with her. It's perfect casting, if you ask me. I also think that it was a good idea whenever they were kind of recapturing the idea of this franchise to make it a slow burn, make it scarier, and to bring a child into it again. I love Alice. She's so sweet. She's so fun to watch, and I like her because a lot of times child actors aren't the best, and so for me, she does a great job, and that really helps me buy into the storytelling aspect of this movie. The way that she befriends Chucky, the way that she's moving around and talking and contemplating and interacting with him in the whole film, I really loved it. It's exactly what we needed and wanted, and they do it a little bit differently too, She always says, I'm not hiding him, it's him, he's running away from me. And there's even a shot in the movie where you see him run past the hallway in the mirror, and she goes, there he goes. So I really loved having an innocent child in this one, and I love that she was a little girl this time around. Let's talk about the design aspect of the doll. So I don't mind the look of this doll at all. I think it's one of the better looks, in fact, and I really, really love the smooth, innocent, childlike look of it because it makes it so cute and so very innocent, and then when it starts to become creepy, you completely understand why that it's Chucky. And I know that there's always a little bit of a variation for the dolls, but I really am not bothered by this at all. I kind of prefer it over some of the other versions, especially whenever we get the secrets revealed behind like the makeup on the face. So the moment whenever Nica's sister, okay, sidebar, the rest of the cast in this movie also does a really great job, and I like that it's a one location for the most part movie. And that's something else that I think is good too, is even though it's mostly in one place, whenever they go other places, it's really nice. You know, you have that cop car accident crash scene with like the, you know, the pastor, and the ending of this movie having like the whole courtroom scene and stuff, but we'll get to that later. I just really loved how they were able to bring back Chucky's history and tie the franchise together with the whole little Stitch reveal, and I love that part. It was so scary. I love the interaction between Nica and her sister Barb. There's a really cool history there, and there's like problems, obviously. I think that the relationship between them definitely was developed well enough to be able to understand their chemistry and why it is that they would be reacting to each other these ways. You know, I love the portrayal of this kind of relationship. I've had in many circumstances with my family where people just kind of, you know, even though they love you, they're kind of like beating down on you always. And so it's just very interesting. I appreciated seeing that aspect. It made it very real, a very family element. It made it, the world building seem real, and that the characters are going through these types of things, and that it's a movie and a situation that you're interested in watching, and now it has Chucky involved. Now it's a horror plot involved. So I cared about these characters, and they were good anyway, and that's why it makes a good horror movie as well. The kills in this franchise are amazing, that is undoubtable, but this movie specifically did something that I really wasn't expecting. It did the kills to the max. It did not shy away at all, and this movie, even though it's a slow burn, it's not a slow feeling movie. It keeps your attention peaked, and there's always an event going on. There's always some sort of suspense building. There's always some fact that you are learning, or there's something curious happening, or you're on the edge of your seat. It's always on rotation. And when we finally get to those kills, they are graphic. I love watching the unrated versions. I don't usually ever watch the regular kind. And just the whole suspense of that chilly scene, and the way that it was directed, and it was so creepy and eerie, and the way that it ended was so horrific, and the props and the makeup and the blood and the effects were so good, and it sold it. It made it look like a brand new, fresh, quality Chucky movie, and that's why I really love how this installment steered the franchise this way. Especially when we're getting to the end of the film now, and Chucky's kind of done his reveal and his killing off, and there's been some back and forth and like the garage and in between the other characters, and he's getting to the point where he's just terrorizing Nica. You know, there's all of this blood and their axe, and he even like throws her over the balcony at some point, and she just does not stop getting beat up. But she is a worthy opponent. She really fights Chucky and like whoops his ass, and that really says something, because you see her in the chair and you think that she's more vulnerable because she can't just get up and run away. And that's true, but she doesn't let that make her more of a victim. In fact, I think that vulnerability for her and the fact that she's handicapped and limited lights a fire under her ass and gives her a passion in her to survive even more. She fights for her fucking life in this movie, and she is a great role model, a great person to look up to, a great final girl. I was completely happy with how she handled herself in this. When you get the reveal between her past and Chucky, it was perfect. I love that whole secret building, and it was a good movie on top of it, but having it tie in like that really does the character development and the story world building, and you really feel like you've learned something. There's that oh no moment, that reveal, and it's kind of like Scream, you know, we love that reveal of who the killer was. If you didn't get that at the end, you know, it's like, sure, it's a great film, but there was that oomph. So whenever it just made the movie that much better to me, because it wasn't just random people, you know, there was a reason, and there was a plot, and it connected back to the first one, and it was also the first time that Brad Dourif had been back on set playing the role of Charles Lee Ray as the human since the first movie. And I loved how they aesthetically did that between the flashbacks being black and white. I think that was perfect. It really sold it. It also hides the, you know, the age, because of, you know, Brad Dourif filming this in 2013, and you know, the first one was in the 80s. And the pop of color with just like the sunflowers, the yellow. It was also eerie. This whole movie is so eerie. Speaking of eerie, and also the kills, I forgot to mention this. When Chucky is like taken the axe and like chopped off that person's chin, oh my god, that was one of my favorite parts. And I love whenever she's kicking his ass at the end in the elevator, and I love how he just leaves the scene at the end. This is kind of one of the first times where we see a victim in trouble and the cop shows up to her house and the doll's just kind of sitting there, and he plays that element. Remember how I said he's getting to the point where he's really learning his own. He loves gaslighting people and making people think that they're crazy. Of course, a killer doll could never really exist, and he loves putting people in that situation. And that's where Nica ends up. And the final moments of this movie are her being confined to a insane asylum, which I didn't know would be leading to the next movie, which is fucking perfect if you ask me. We also come to one of my absolute favorite parts of this movie. I wish she had been in here a little bit more, but it still works for whatever it is. I'm still glad that she was in it. It makes it completely better than not. Is Jennifer Tilly's surprise cameo at the end here with the classic neck slit and nail file. Oh my god, I love her. She's blonde, she's beautiful, she's badass and dangerous, and she can pull off the camera like no one else, because even though she has that last like 2 minutes of the film, she takes your attention and she puts it in full drive. I mean, it doesn't even feel like she has that little screen time. She eats up every second, and I am there eating it up with her. Jennifer Tilly does an amazing job. I love Tiffany. And I love that Andy Barclay has a cameo at the end of this one, which I also didn't know was going to set up for the next one. It was the perfect way to kind of like give a little end to this movie, because even if it never had a sequel, it's fun to see him grown up, and it was the first little hint, and I never really knew what he looked like. And he's got that same little cute baby face on him, just as an adult now, and he shoots the fuck out of Chucky, and I thought that was a great way to end it. Well, those were my thoughts on Curse of Chucky. I really hope you enjoyed them, and I hope you can relate to some of them. Let me know how you feel about this movie down in the comments. What were your thoughts on the fact that this was kind of like a reboot to the franchise, and then you figure out that it still kind of ties in and connects? I happen to love that aspect. Tell me what your favorite version of Chucky was, you know, who was your favorite character in this movie, like all that stuff, all that good stuff in the comments. And be sure to check out some of my other videos. I've done a bunch of different genres, and I plan to do a bunch more. Once again, this is my box set of Chucky containing all 7 films. Beautiful. If you can add it to your collection, you absolutely should. Be sure to check out some of my live streams that I do with my friends, because they happen all the time, and I'll try to make sure that there's links posted to them. And with all of that being said, I hope you had a great time with my review, and make sure to check back for whenever I post something new. And hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.